Okay, here we are back to watch part 2. Filmers put some stuff together, and I've not seen this yet, so let's see what we're doing.
Yeah, let's get out of Texas.
Go ahead. They're both crap anyway.
So here we've landed, okay, and everybody's observing what's going on. A couple of the guys are working on Jeff Blakey's about to pull the sump, you know, to check the engine. But this was right after we'd landed, and everybody'd come over, not only with the AT-11, but with the our truck and everything too.
Crap anyway.
Tell the folks on the video what happened, Tim.
Well, we lost oil pressure on number 2. Tried to feather it. It apparently feathered and came right back out. The pilot did an excellent job of getting the airplane down.
Okay, so here we are. I got Ray Williams, Jeff Blakey here, and you know the engine's oil's still warm, so we're checking the sump where the screen is and stuff. And he's just going to pull the plug there to drain the sump where the screen is. We'll see what happens.
We'll find the next computer airline.
Oh, that's it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, listen.
Next computer airline.
Oh, that's it. That's all she wrote.
Computer airline.
Oh, that's it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, so literally what was happening there is he did the sump, and you can hear the parts hitting in the little pan there that Ray's holding. And then at some point what we did is we drained a bunch of more oil out of there, and then we were just like looking for the whole system.
You guys have a nice...
Definitely master.
Need to find this.
This is the ones they're talking about with the parts numbers, right?
I've seen bigger pieces than that. Well, we can testify to engine support engines getting right?
This is not the first one of theirs. It's not saying like that.
All that.
We're just cranking.
Anyway, so they were commenting about who had done the overhaul. I don't know anything about them, but apparently, you know, they'd had some experience. So this was all the silver babbitt that was in the bearings and stuff that came out. So obviously this thing had an issue which we couldn't determine before, and that's why it started losing oil pressure, because when all this left, you know, then it expanded and the oil pressure dropped because it was free to move through. And as I remember, I took all this silver babbitt, and I think I ended up making a ring for my girlfriend at the time. So.
We're just cranking.
Obviously this engine needed to come off. That's number 2. So we were pulling the prop off.
Little blue cooler.
I decided, let's just pull them all off. This is too valuable an airplane. Of course, this is 1985.
It looks like it's clear.
Pulling the prop off, I think, probably number 1. Of course, the engine's on an angle there, so you've got to slowly lift it up as you're pulling it off. I can't remember if I painted that on at this point. I think it was much, much earlier.
Yeah, a couple of these coats, I got some new ones. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so this is pulling off number 1. These are Wright 1820s, basically 1,200 horsepower apiece. Hamilton standard propellers. Comes number 3. They number the engines left to right, port to starboard. Number 4. Oh my God. What an ordeal.
Oh, take it right down now. We're clear. Just take the temper. It looks like it's clear. Just go.
Yeah, so, you know, Blakey Engine Service, Rudy and Jeff had done the engines for like the Grumman Duck and stuff, which also has an 1820. So since Jeff was part of the crew, you know, we went ahead and sent all the engines, you know, down there. We had a truck and all that stuff. So they were in Perry, Florida at the time. So now we're back, 1987. Engines overhauled, props overhauled, carburetors, mags, feathering pumps, oil pumps, everything. Yeah, so we had a new camera. I'm so glad I recorded all this. So here we are flying back. I'm in the AT-11. We got a truck following us with all the engines and everything. We're arriving at Cox Field, Paris, Texas. There's the B-17. This is on the east side of Paris, Texas. On the west side, about 12 miles to the west, as I recall, was Junior Birchinall's field where we flew out of. So here we've got a paved runway now. Taxiing in.
Guy parking you off here to the right, Kermit.
Hadn't seen the airplane in 2 years.
Here we go again. God, it's a war, Larry.
Okay, so we picked up a couple of new people too that you know, came along as part of this whole ordeal. This was going to be a much bigger work trip than originally, because we had to put everything back together. And there's the trailer. Looks like we brought our own little forklift with us too. Man, we got a lot of use out of that trailer. Had a little ramp in the back there that we could unload stuff. Looking out all the stuff in the back. There's Jeff Blakey.
Boy, I wish I could be a cameraman.
Nuts back on there, or take the bolts out of the board?
Back up. Up, not forward. Back up more. How's that? Good, huh? More? Up a little. Come on, no, whoa. Drop down now, son. Again? Down, son.
Man, I don't know what happened to that forklift. All the engines.
And you can tilt it back. You want me to hop up and let it down? Alright, come on in.
Now we gotta figure out what Kermit's doing back there.
Trying to get a tail wheel unlock light to work in the cockpit.
Where's the other one?
Oh,
They're on that wire on that.
Hey, Brian?
This guy was my first employee ever, Brian Ingram, and he later went on to work for the FAA, and anyway, it was fascinating. And here what they're working on is they're actually taking out some wing bolts that was an AD that you have to take some tapered pins out, and it was a B-17 AD that we wanted to redo, to make it legal. And it was basically they were looking for the wing fitting on the spar, the bolts. If this is the wing out here, and this is basically where the fuselage is, where the wing bolts to the spar. There's a bunch of bolts in there, and you have to check that for the aluminum spar, check for cracks and stuff. So they're basically pulling the pins out here, and of course they're tapered pins, so they really had to get on them to get them out. But everything was fine, and we signed that off.
Tail it out just a little bit. See what we got out of here? Tail too far. Yeah, certainly. Oh, yeah, okay. Here comes one of those 125-mile-an-hour bonanzas.
All right, pick it up. Come on down.
You can let go, cars.
Of course, we added all new hardware.
Not even up against it yet.
Then you can scratch that off.
Watch your back, Kermit.
Don't.
Down.
All right, come on in. Whoa. Gotta go over that way a little bit.
Apparently, we were saving the best for last.
There we go.
You got that?
Okay. 5 cranks.
So I got three basic, people here that were helping me out. Brian Ingram over here, he was my first employee ever, and went on to work for the FAA, and I think he was an air traffic controller for a while, and then became like an inspector for the FAA. And he started working with me when we had a Hawker Sea Fury, a dual control project. And as I remember, of course, this was back in the very early 80s. And I think he was making $3 an hour. And things have changed. These two people were working with me when the Weeks Air Museum opened up. This is Kent McMakin over here, and he's a real vintage guy. Sam Tabor here. They both have, left and ended up going back to where they lived up in Illinois.
I only did one of the two. Do the one.
Of course, the props are all overhauled.
That's it. All right. Come on down. Is that just hand tight on there, Kent?
6 pounds of torque.
Yeah, so here they are actually torquing on the propeller nut there, and it has to have a certain amount of torque on there to make sure that it stays tight. So they're you know, they're basically calculating the pull with the leverage there. Of course, this was all stuff that was written on the airplane when Junior Birchnall had it and his kids. One of his kids there, his name was Sammy, I remember, and he always used to make a comment, you know, that we used to mimic him every once in a while to go, "Hey, she's ready to go, she's ready to go." That was another comment that he had too. He said, you know, he was making a comment about one time where the airplanes were all parked on the airstrip at the Birchnall strip one way, and this storm came through, or a tornado or something like that, and when they came back out, they were all pointed the other way. And his other comment was, "If I'm lying, I'm dying." I just realized that's my birthday, although it was 10 years later when I was born. Okay, this is the APU in the back. It's actually a gas-powered generator that we would start before we would, you know, instead of using the batteries, we would run the electrical off this. Then before you take off, you'd shut this off. And then the generators on the 4 engines were supplying juice to the batteries. That's the gas tank for the APU.
That's the tail gunner's position. Tail wheel. Doesn't work right now. Got it in the down lock position. Got the left waist gun position. Fuel tank for the APU. Right waist gun position. Hand cranks for cranking the gear and the flaps down.
Yeah, this is the radio operator's compartment, and this top out here, he also in a combat position had 150 caliber machine gun that used to stick out the top.
Cockpit looking for the bomb bay, bomb racks. Outboard bomb rack. The walkway. Brian and Sam still working on the bolt. There's the cockpit. Top turret.
You know, of course, the upper turret is not installed in this airplane here, just the thing on the top there, but it actually, the guy would actually you know, sit or basically stand in it, and it would rotate around, and you know, the guns would go up and down. It took up a lot of room in that space there, so most B-17s don't have that whole thing in there, and it's difficult to get in and out through there when the original full turret is installed.
Fuse panel. Top turret. Hydraulic tank, accumulator. Hydraulic motor. Pressure switch. Propeller. Throttles. Props. Mixers. Panel. Electrical panel. Fire extinguishers. intercooler controls. Starting switches on the right there. And that's how you go down up to the nose. Chin turret position. Bombardier.
You know, up in the front here, the bombardier would actually sit here and, you know, look through the Norden bomb sight. He had a little seat there, but he also had the ability, there was a thing that swung into position, and he operated the nose turret on the front. The navigator sat actually on the left side of the nose up here, and in a combat situation, he came up and he had two guns out the nose, one on the starboard side, one on the port side, and he would, you know, basically go back and forth behind the bombardier, which was operating the, you know, the chin turret at the time. You know, once the bomb mission was complete.
Next to the nose compartment, see the oxygen bottles on the back. Back in the instrument panel. The bombardier's position, navigator's table.
Well, here we are, the crack of dawn on Thursday morning.
Yeah, so here you can see they're popping bolts out of the spar right there, and they're just checking for cracks in the aluminum part here. Yeah, so here I am basically calibrating our fuel stick. The fuel gauges don't work. So what we would do is we basically, I think pretty much every 10 gallons, we'd put 10 gallons in, dip it, we'd pull it out, I'd mark 10 gallons, and we did this, you know, for each of the fuel tanks that we were using. So anyway, that was, so we knew exactly how much fuel. The engines burned basically a gallon a minute, 60 gallons an hour, cruising.
Well, very few shots are going to get of Alan actually doing some manual labor. Enough fuel to run a little airplane for 3 years.
Key leads on, right? Yeah, key leads on. It's connected at the firewall.
Go!
Turn it off. We're not ready yet. We'll let you know. We'll let you know. All right.
Yeah, so Jeff had a great checklist, you know, to make sure that everything was connected. We looked at everything, so, you know, of course we had to do this for all 4 engines. Yeah, okay, I just want to point out here, I came up with this idea of the Save the Ducks shirt, and this is actually in the manual of the Grumman Duck Manual. So I went and I took this and I came up with the thing Save the Ducks, because there was the whole big environmental thing going on at the time. So anyway, that was pretty cool.
Here we are now with Kermit Weeks from the Weeks Air Museum. Kermit, what is this mission all about?
This mission, should we decide to accept, is to get this aircraft back to Miami.
And where are we now?
Well, we're halfway there.
All right, so stay tuned. We'll be back shortly with starting the engines. I assume we mean pounds per square inch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bomb load, son, bomb load.
That PSI.
The roving reporter is going to back away from this just in case.
Now the landing gear on the B-17 is actually electric. It goes up and down with an electric motor. It's not hydraulic, and that's kind of why it takes a while.
Miami or bust!
And we're just making sure everything clears, you know, and you know, there's nothing, you know, is grabbing anything, and you know, it's working properly.
Clear on 2.
Why don't we just maybe we're going to stay here to the left?
So here's Kermit, 33 years old, getting his B-17 going, heading back to Florida. Jeff looking for oil leaks. He's looking behind the firewall for oil leaks as well. Okay, start number 3. You know, at this point too, once the engines had been put on the airplane, we had gone in, put oil in, we pre-oiled the engines as well. Okay, we got 2 turning and 2 to go. I'd say that's a pretty good day's work. That's Vinny Toronto there. He worked for me for a while. And his father, Vincent Toronto, was basically still down at the Wings Over Miami Museum. And he was the one that actually rebuilt my TP-40 with a bunch of volunteers. Here we are, next day. 2 more engines to go.
What?
Yeah, so there's a spline on the crankshaft that matches in the prop there. So not only do you have to kind of tilt the prop back a little bit because the engine's at an angle, but you also have to rotate it just enough to where it lines up with the splines. You know, once it slides on, you know, then it's pretty easy to make it fit.
All we got to do left is pre-oil, number 1 and number 4, and what's that, about 100 penny pounds?
Of course, when the engine starts up, any oil that's left that's dripped inside the exhaust or anything like that, it basically, it's still wet in there, and as the exhaust stack heats up, it creates the oil puffing out of there, as well as any oil that was in the cylinders that's burned up from the combustion process. Yeah, just a reminder here, I had gotten my B-17 rating with the EAA airplane, and when I when I flew the airplane out of Birchnall Field, I only had 4 hours in a B-17. So now I've got 4 hours and 15 minutes in a B-17, so here we go. Maybe that was a bird's nest that just went out of the exhaust stack there. It didn't look like any birds were in it. So here we are checking the screens for the first time after we've run all the engines. So we want to make sure everything's running fine and the oil screens are clear of anything. Generally, when you first do that, you get little things like, tight seal and, things that you might have put the things together with or something like that. But, it's nothing that's of bother, but you check the screens to clean them out to look for anything. But what you're looking for is metal and stuff like that, which we found after the engine shelled itself when we flew it over from Birchnall's Field. So there you can see the screen there. It's just a fine mesh screen, kind of like you'd see like on a pool screen or something like that, but it's made out of metal. And, the oil's, I think, going in like this or whatever. So any of the parts you would find, I think, would be on the outside. So they're just checking the screen, cleaning it out.
The verdict, Jeff.
Just clean them and run them.
That's just like tight seal and stuff?
No, just carbon and not much dirt in this one, so,
No mud at all, no?
Yeah, no mud in that, so we just clean them and run them and clean them and run them. And
I think one of the engines previously, they had found a little bit of mud in there, and when we came back, when we left, we sealed everything, all the oil pipes and all that kind of stuff, but we were to discover later that there was an issue. The engines had been run on a stand at Blakey Engine Service, but once we got them there, we filled up the oil tanks and everything. We still pre-oiled the engines using this, and it was a hot pre-oiler, so it would warm the oil up, and it would, run oil through the engines even though the engines weren't moving. We would turn them through a little bit at some point, just to make sure there was enough oil in the system. Yeah, so here apparently, you know, we had found a little bit of mud in one of the screens in this engine, and so we went ahead and set it up, and we were flushing the engine with, you know, some mineral spirits. That appears what we're doing here. Yeah, because that's not oil. So here we are, you know, just topping off the oil tanks to where they should be for flight.
Trying to get some of the stuff cleared up on the first truck, just in
Pulling this beautiful little oil pump off.
The one that's all full of stuff on it.
The one that's got that mud dauber condo in it. That's what I was doing when I dropped
Yeah, so at some point, you know, because of the mud and a little bit we found in the tubes, we found out that some mud daubers had gotten in some of the pipes and made a nest, so it showed up in this engine when we checked the screen. Yeah, so here Jeff's pulled the oil pump, you know, once we realized we found some mud in the screen from the mud daubers, and so cautiously he went ahead and pulled this out, and you can see there's a little bit of mud in there, so we're just cleaning out the system.
Jesus. What big chunks.
Yeah, so you can see it's not solid and hard. It's just basically, you know, a ball of grit, of dirt.
At least it ain't rocks.
Here goes Kermit with an airplane load of people and a one-wheel takeoff. Well, what would you call that, Alan?
I think he's going to take off and come on and do it. It's Bob Hoover.
Bob Hoover deal. Tennessee Waltz.
I guess I got bored while we were working on that, and since Jeff was doing a deal, I decided to go out and have some fun.
I guess so. All right, Kermit. Give us a good feather job here now.
Yeah, I purchased this aircraft from the Sanders brothers out at Chino and flew it back, and you know, had a lot of fun in it. It was a great twin-engine airplane.
Okay. Could you please narrate to us what's going on now? Mr. Airshow competitor pilot commentary.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first annual Paris Air Show. Okay, we have Air Show Center. If you look left of Air Show Center, Kermit, aka the Worm, the Weasel, and the Frog Weeks, coming in for the Bob Hoover Tennessee Waltz. Let's just see how he does as he approaches. He's down. Pretty good. Look at that. Oh, he's back up. It looks pretty good.
Never let it be said that I didn't have any fun. Life's a beach. Okay, so everything's pretty much tested, and what we're doing now is we're buttoning up all the cowling and stuff, and you can obviously see that's all been restored as well.
You might take the little top part of the cowl flaps, have a little piece off. Oh, already good.
Here goes the co-pilot. Gotta get everything in place.
So here we are getting ready to go do a test flight. Yeah, you can see after the engine that we've run them before, you know, that just drips a little bit of oil in the exhaust and still smokes pretty much every time. So it's kind of part of the ambiance of some of these old vintage airplanes. Yeah, you can see all the control surfaces have been recovered, and you know, they're still in silver.
Changing the brake, leaking like a sieve.
Which again, you know, they have to
Leaky brake pad.
worry about their rent, overhead, and all that stuff on that too. You go to small airport.
Some people get all the brakes.
But you know,
Right next to it.
right after you get
.30 in the morning, Central Daylight Time.
I think we got the rhythm, Brian. Is anybody counting?
May the 3rd. Pulling the blades through for the dawn patrol. Mo, Larry, and Curly.
No. No.
Don't ask me why the props are painted different
Rumbling
colors.
here in the background is not flat.
Good morning, folks. Yes, it is Sunday, May 3rd, 1987, Paris, Texas, the day of the big test flight. As you can see, the weather has not cooperated with us. Neither has any of our ground crew. And to let you know, let's fly around. All right, have fun.
This is it. The entry for the test flight. Pass is closed.
Yeah, Ray Williams was my co-pilot. He was an aerobatic friend of mine, and he used to fly King Airs and things like that. But prior to taking off on the Birchnall flight and this flight here, he'd never been in a B-17 in his life. Okay, so everything's running good. Brakes are working fine.
Well, 1 year, 360 days later.
Note, no smoke. I really like flying a B-17. To me, it flies like a big 4-engine Piper Cub.
Alright, that's Ray Burton Williams flying it. This is his first complete pass over the
Props up. Pressure up. Come on back on the throttle some more. Just go ahead and bring them on back. Come on back. Pressure's up. Just wipe them off. Throttle off. Mighty nice. Yep. Pressure's up.
Note is a 3-point landing. I always used to 3-point it.
first flight. First flight in 2 years.
Yeah. Yesterday, I didn't know that time to apply it, but then I said to the house, hey, that sounds like a
Absolutely, checklist. That's all.
Yeah, I can see that.
Got a ramp open. Open.
Good, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, I think.
Very good. Very
Ray, do you want a diet or a regular?
That's beautiful.
Drag it.
Sam might want to regular.
I need a regular.
Now here, here.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like test flight number 2, and I believe I've got Alan Bush, my friend from early Miami days, in the right seat, and he had been flying C-46s for Air Haiti.
Well, what do you think, Jeff?
Sucks.
Note the feathered propeller on number 4.
Pulling off a motor, taking it back.
Kermit Weeks crew 3, mud daubers 1.
He doesn't want to leave. Is it all silver?
Yeah.
Just send one there, thank you.
So here we are draining all the oil out of number 4. At least we know what we're doing this time.
I was just waiting. Command.
So here Jeff's pulled the oil screen.
Looks good.
So the screen didn't get anything, but what happened was it ended up in the sump. So when they pulled the sump, you know, they found some silver babbitt. So the bearing went because of the mud daubers, and you know, it was just unfortunate.
Well, you just need to come along.
Yeah, it looked like that the other day.
Checking the sump on the last one. All the other ones seem to be pretty good. But number 4, it's good. Well, he's all tied down. -1 engine.
We'll be back.